I'm sure we've heard quite a lot of things about L&D today, and probably one of the most fast-paced growth what we see in corporate today is on the L&D, right? Every single day, corporates are trying to find out what is that new thing, what they can bring to the table so that, people are happy. There can be retention, there can be people sprucing so that, they don't need to walk away in a very short period of time what they spend in the organization. With this intro, let me start with my first question. This would be for you, Roy. I'm sure, gamification and L&D goes hand in hand today, right? On that, how can organization effectively integrate gamification into L&D program to foster a culture of continuous learning while ensuring measurable outcomes?
Cool. Thanks, Asha. I think that's such a loaded question. It'll take me 1 hour to answer it.
Gamification. And in my previous organization, what experiment we did was, we actually played a game of cricket at the end of the, the numbers when they achieve. We said that we'll have a stadium booked. The winning teams will come, pan-India winning teams will come to that stadium and will invite some cricketer also and actually have a game there. So people understood that it is the spirit of gamification that we are talking about, not just a competition. But coming to, regular L&D sales training, we create small nuggets of learning and we ask them to finish it. Whoever finishes first, and scores the highest marks, they start getting some coins and, then you can redeem those coins with certain things. So a lot of gamification can happen that way also. But I buy the point that sometimes it distracts. So you have to be very, very systematic in administering it. And you have to see that gamification serves a purpose to an extent. Beyond that, you have to get into the business. So it should not be left only for the sake of it, but the learning has to continue.
Okay. Got it. Thanks, Pankaj. Moving on to the next topic on L&D, right? We do L&D for the entire organization, but sometimes, we kind of miss out on giving learning and development for our own teams, that is human resource. So Vikas, here is my question to you, what is the kind of strategies, what you use for either talent management or recruiters, or it may be HRBPs or compensation and benefit, or people who are into branding, right? In HR only, right? What is the kind of overall L&D, what you use on these people actually?
Yeah, before I answer that, I just have to comment. I came across this one little thing since we spoke about gamification, so I just want to add my 2 cents here. And there were 2 people who were not getting along, right, in the office, extremely political or whatever. And somebody thought that throwing both of them into a snake pit would be a good idea. They were actually thrown into a snake pit. And the whole game, so-called, was to be able to help each other get out of that snake pit. And that's how you build camaraderie. And that's, I kind of so agree to what you just said, that at times we kind of just overdo the whole thing. We make games out of some very serious subjects, and some very serious subjects, need to be dealt very differently.
So you can also concentrate more on talent acquisition training, because those are the face of the organization, right? And they face a lot of dynamic challenges. It can be pre-boarding or probably getting somebody, and also a simple thing like getting them down to the coffee, right? What is the kind of training or development or any kind of thing what you do for this set of group?
Yeah, if you look at, I don't know whether it should be HR specific, but any kind of a training per se, I think needs a very strong VIFM, right? If you're going to, let's suppose I'm the Comp and Ben lead and my manager thinks that, I need to go through a Comp and Ben program for about 3 days or whatever. Till the time I don't really have a very strong need to be a part of it, no amount of gamification, leaderboards, incentivization is going to help. I'll tell you, in 97, I started my career. I was a sales guy. I was telling the gentleman there, I used to do a lot of sales trainings. And somebody thought that, it's a good thing to put people into offsites. And these offsites used to be training and learning initiatives, right? Where somebody would come, make you play games and things like that. Fact is, the reason at least I used to go there was because I would get to meet so many people, and then there's a lot of liquor and dancing in the night, right? So Did I really go there with an intent to say that, listen, I want to learn something new, they're going to teach me about some frameworks and stuff like that? Not really. And let's be honest, put your hands to the heart and answer this question. But then, I was blessed with a daughter in 2005, and I thought, listen, she's very pretty, and I need to click pictures, right? So I went to a store, picked up a camera, and I didn't know how to operate a DSLR because that guy oversold me. I had gone for a point and shoot, and he said, oh, you need to buy this. I didn't know, and I bought a very fancy one. And all these settings and features, I just didn't know how to use them. What did I do? I learned. There was no incentivization, there was no gamification, there was nothing. I had a very strong reason to learn. I think for us, when you look at in HR or for any other role, the main focus for us has to be to create that reason, that what happens? What's in it for me? So, you know it, Asha, we have spoken about this, that when you create things like skills-based organization, and then you say that basis skill adjacencies, you can move into other roles. However, to move into those other roles, these are the 3 skills you need to learn. Now here's a VIFM for me to say that if I have to be progressing in the organization, this is what I need to learn. But you try and tell some HR guy, because we in HR really think that we know it all, right? People say yes, no, but we think we know it all. We don't, all right? So if you're going to tell me that, go and sit in this training program and they're going to teach you AI, I'll say, I'm sorry, I know it all, right? So it's very difficult. So get the VIFM generated first. Now, if you really still have that VIFM and now you're looking at, okay, how do I enable it? Then you have tools and artifacts. I've come across so much content in the last 3 years that it's amazing. Today I made a very nice little piece for my own team to say that what are good prompts that you can use for your daily routine jobs, whether it's about creating JDs, because we still use ChatGPT more like Google. It's a query engine, not the right way. And when I told my team that you have to actually upload some information to ChatGPT before you actually start asking queries, and they were like, what? We didn't know this. So what I'm saying is that the reason to get into a learning program is prima facie the most important thing. And then as far as the tools and artifacts is concerned, even an Instagram or a YouTube, AI HR, there are plenty of those. And even if you don't, and we've seen this in my company, okay? Even if you don't have a tool or an e-learning module, the people who are seeing that, okay, for me to move to this role, these are the 3 things I need to do, they have gone out and they have upskilled themselves on their own. And now they are asking me that, listen, I've learned this, but where is the way to, apply this skill? Can you give me a project? And all of this is them coming back to me. So I think I'm just twisting the whole narrative to say that what are the tools? You can Google them out. But the real thing that we have to do is that let's get the VIFM or the VIFU, what's in it for you, kind of creative.
I
Back to you,
know,
Asha.
I know. You are very passionate about this topic, and I can see that. Thanks a lot for that. So we kind of covered the gamification of L&D and how also the gamification of sales can happen with L&D, and also what Vikas just spoke and threw some light on the HR or maybe the entire recruitment scene, right? Moving on, this is about data driven, right? How many of us today are using a method where our approach is towards data driven, right? It can be about the attrition, it can be about what kind of colleges work for us, what kind of companies work for us, right? Towards that, let me come to this question for you, Roy. So I have last 2 questions, and I have very clearly told my panel it's only 2 or 3 minutes per question. So bear with us for another 6 to 7 minutes. Okay. So Roy, this is for you. How can predictive analysis and workforce planning help HR leaders to anticipate future skills needs and align L&D initiative with long-term business strategies?
Asha, your question was so long that it actually had the answers in it. Right? But yeah, jokes apart, I'll probably start with the personal experience that I had. So I was taking over a team. I had moved into a new role a few years ago. And the person who was handing over, the manager who was transitioning out, spent about 4 hours with me to do a knowledge transfer. And more than 90% of the time was just being spent telling me what reports are created for which, there were 8 different countries, so which countries, and the leaders these reports were going out, right? So there were different cadence for different reports, so there were weekly, monthly, quarterly reports that were going out. And after the end of that 4-hour grueling session, I was totally confused. I didn't know what data we were looking at, why we were doing those reports, what was that data being used for. Was it really driving any decision making? I was clueless. So this was a team of L&D professionals, right? And when I spoke to my team members, I realized they were spending more time creating reports, doing basic level of data analytics, and creating dashboards, right? So I was like, okay, this doesn't seem to be the JD for which you're supposed to perform, right? How am I going to do your performance management at the end of the year? So I said, okay, let's stop all these reports for a month, and let's see what pushback we get from the leaders in the organization, right? It's been 5-6 years. I'm still waiting for one of those leaders to come back and say, hey, you haven't sent my report in the last 6 years. So the fact is that we were generating report after report, spending more than 50-60% of our valuable time creating a dashboard or creating dashboards which were not being used for any meaningful decision making, right? And that's the reason behind that. We actually look in deep, right? See, there are input metrics and there are output metrics, right? L&D, performance management, at least the data that you put into your performance management, these are all input metrics, right? The board or the C-suite leadership is not really interested in those input metrics. It doesn't matter how many hours your employees spend in mandatory training or optional training. What really matters is when you have to recruit for a mid-level position, is that talent available in-house or are you having to go outside for that talent, right? If you are a GCC in India and if you've been here for more than 10 years or above and you are going outside to recruit, it means your learning organization has failed. You've not created a learning culture. It's as simple as that, right? So the way I look at it is look at output metrics, look at internal promotion rates, look at internal movements. It doesn't need to be vertical, it could be lateral as well. Look at your retention rates and look at your business outcomes, right? I think correlating that with what learning culture you want to build will give you better results.
So Roy, you mean to say data is not required every nook and corner of the organization. We'll have to probably look at few strategic areas where it can yield us the right results and at least for the future this one.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying data is not important. Data
Absolutely.
is important. As leaders, we need to keep an eye on the data, but we don't need to get over obsessed about it and lose sight of the end objective.
Okay, like the gamification. Wherever it is required, please use it. Okay, let me close this session with the last question because I know Vikas is very passionate again about this data-driven L&D strategies. Because this is for you, right? What role does integration L&D data with enterprise-wide system and employee advanced data visualization technique play in meeting the board's expectations?
I think this word visualization, you should just scrub it off. I mean, I think that's what Roy was saying. Those days of diagnostics, etc., are kind of behind us. If you look at some of the tools that we use today, you don't even need to look at, okay, what is my attrition percentage? Actually, what do you do with it? That's the point that Roy was making, I'm assuming. That, what is it that you're looking for insights, and there is tech which actually today throws up insights, and clearly tells you an action. So we've gone beyond predictives, and we are saying that here's an action. Go ahead and do it, and that's how you're going to be arresting your problem. And if you look at L&D data, I think it's so rich, and it's not just about the number of training hours that you did. I mean, data is not just numbers, let's get that clear. Even a text is a data, even an image is a data. And there is so much of that which exists in an HRIMS system or in an email, I mean, I don't know if you've heard about things like ONA, Organization Network Analysis. There are tools which actually tell you that within the organizations, which are the real active and the passive networks, which basically means that if Neil is my boss, maybe I do not have a very active, working relationship with him, but maybe I have it with Pankaj, and who's probably in another team. This your tech tells you. And it throws up these kind of working relationships basis which you can create cohorts. Now that's a use case, so-called, which you can use to make more productive teams in it. Now, where is this data coming from? It is not coming from a number. It is not coming from some statistical model, but it is coming from a very simple read of email communication, working rhythms, etc. So I think we have to understand that the use of data, the way we used to do early days, where we used to create these fancy visual dashboards and we used to say, hey, listen, this is looking very nice, this is not looking very nice, a red and an amber and a green. Those days are kind of behind us. because there are tools that are available, which we all use, or maybe we don't, which kind of tell you that, listen, your attrition is going to go down in the next 3 months. So good job done, or go up. So here are the 4 actions that you need to do. I'm in fact working on a predictive model which tells me that, if I go ahead and recruit someone, what is the propensity for this guy to perform in the next 1 year at a rating which is between 1 and 2, and 1 being the highest, all right? We are also having these attrition models. But unfortunately, we have started generalizing attrition models to say that, oh, your attrition is going to be at 38%. That doesn't give me any information. But if it tells me that Savita is going to attrite in the next 3 months, I can probably go ahead and ring fence her. And that is possible today. For that, I do not need a visual dashboard with Savita's picture there or any of that sort of data. I just need an information and an action. And what if that tool could also tell me that these are the 3 things that you need to do, which is probably change a manager, make her compensation better, or whatever. So this is, I think, the new use of data. But for that, we as HR professionals have to understand that data is not just about a metric. It starts from a use case, that what do you want to solve for, all right? Today you can predict a whole lot of things. And some of these predictive use cases are so rich, and they are so, they actually go in the realms of fiction, right? But trust me, there are companies which are actually working on POCs with those use cases. Hit me up for more of those. But even if you Google them out. But we as HR just look at data as numbers. We have to start using things like sentiment analysis, understand NLP, understand ONA, understand that data is everywhere and it is just not numbers. And that's when the learning data comes and plays, shakes its hand with the performance data. I said yesterday that performance is a skill and a will issue, right? Assuming will exists, and if your performance is not doing well, maybe it's a skill issue, maybe, all right? So does the learning management system and the performance management system talk to each other and give a nudge to some person to say, here is 2 actions that you need to do, these are the 2 skills that you need to learn, yeah? So that's how these kind of marry with each other.
Thanks, Vikas. Anybody else wants to add? Pankaj?
Just add
yeah.
both the sides I would like to add. One is that they say that digital transformation is not about the digital world, it is about human beings. Recently, Satya Nadella and Reid Hoffman, they were having a discussion, and Satya Nadella spoke about the productivity paradox. So he mentioned that in Microsoft, the managers think that 85% of their team members are slacking off, and the employees were feeling, 85% of employees were feeling that they are overburdened, they are overworking. So this paradox he was talking about, and he said, what do we do with it? How do we overcome this paradox? So he talked about the importance of data. And he said that managers should not place their judgment on the basis of dogmas. They should look into data. Secondly, he also spoke about aligning the goals, making the goals understandable by the employees, making it very clear that how they have to perform the productivity norms and all. And thirdly, he also spoke about soft skills, that managers should also communicate well with the team members. So data is extremely important. We keep saying that decisions should be based on data, but we actually do not understand how do we do that. And even in big companies where data is actually available and analysis are available.
So I just want to add to that. The last 2 companies that I work for, including the present one, have been startups. Now in startups, a lot of traditional methods, and that's why I concur with what Roy says, we don't use big dashboards, not in the learning and development space. So we have clear goals. Hey, in the next 1 year, we need X number of leaders. You will have to work on moving these people, figuring out their skill set, moving them from X to Y. That is my only metric. I have to move the needle from here to there. Or I need a business metric. Or I am looking at saying, I have to train a whole bunch of managers, leaders, and I don't measure anything else other than, okay, how are they doing in the engagement survey? Is there a correlation between their numbers and training? Remember, I'm saying correlation, not causation. I cannot take credit for it. But hey, is there a link? That's all I can do. So, and the point that Vikas raises is absolutely spot on. There are so many tools within the HR space, and I've seen some of them because newer companies tend to use newer tools. There is so much data, there is sentiment analysis. You can actually, just a specific button on a specific tool. If all employees click, your sentiment is visible. The engagement survey tool that we use, exactly like Vikas says, gives you action item at a manager level. If your score is X, it actually goes through the entire data and says there are 3 things you can do. It's actually come to that level, and like he says, it will go to the next level. Even to we are not yet at the predictive stage, but it will actually go there. And there's another tool that we're using which collates all the interview data. I mean, in the next few years, you'll actually have a bot taking an interview. That's for later. But right now, so much rich.
No, wait,
Yeah,
wait.
Yes.
On this bot that takes an interview, okay, there's a very interesting, I'm sure you guys have heard of it, okay? There's, you've heard of these bot-based interviews, right? We guys have those bots and they talk to a candidate. I know of these candidates, so-called, they have their own bots talking to your bot. No, this is real. No, this is today. This is right now. Okay, I was in the same Kolkata, and I was sitting with these guys in the night, the students. They said, Vikas, sir, I want to show you something. I said, what? You know, there's this interview that they do. We found this one little application. It understands the JD, and it understands through the JD that are you using success factors or whatever ATS you're using. It knows which is the bot that you're going to deploy, and it identifies the bot on your behalf, and both the bots are talking to each other and giving interview to each other. Neither the recruiter has the time, neither the candidate has the time. They're having a good time together, you know, so that's where we are headed.
So yeah, welcome to the future.
Okay. Thanks a lot. And just quintessence of the entire thing is there is a lot of data, but we'll need to find out how we are going to use it. There's a lot of gamification, there's a lot of future trends which are coming, but we'll need to understand what fits our organization, what fits our employees, right? Probably with this, thanks a lot, gentlemen. It was amazing, hosting you people over here. Thanks a lot.